Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the RITI training session. We are excited about today's offerings. And just as a reminder, we are recording today's session. So if you find something amazing that you want to revisit, or if there's someone who does not have the opportunity to listen today and hear today, please share the video with them and let them know to follow PVAMU Research, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can get all of the latest videos whenever they are edited and uploaded. So today we are excited because we have told you we've all had conversations about the benefits of serving on review panels. And today one of our own is going to talk to us about her experience serving on an NSF review panel and the benefits of serving on panels. She's going to talk through her experience and what it was like, and perhaps you can ask some questions of her, how it happened, what the experience was like. This is an opportunity for us all to grow. So today we have Dr. Sheena Reeves. She is fresh from her experience serving as a reviewer for NSF, and please join me in welcoming her. Dr. Reeves.
All right, thank you so much, Karen. Thank you everyone for being here. I know it's a weary day to attend a talk about NSF, but I do appreciate you actually showing up. And for those who are watching in I promise to give you some pretty good advice here. So I'm going to discuss the benefits of serving on an NSF review panel, but in general, it's always great to serve on different review panels, whether it's for scholarships or fellowships or the ones that are research based. And I'll go over some of the reasons why. So for my talk today, I'm going to, first of all, tell you the job of the NSF review panel and what's expected of the review panel, how the panelists are actually chosen for a review panel, which is what I think most people actually would like to know. And then what are the expectations as a panelist? What are they expecting you to do while you are on that panel? And then of course, what are those benefits that you really want to hear about as far as serving on an NSF review panel? So let's go ahead and get started with the first topic, which is what exactly is the role of a review panel? So NSF, of course, supports a lot of research, whether it's in science or engineering or in education. But in order to give out that funding, they need a group of individuals to read or review those proposals that they receive. So according to this statistic that I got from NSF, they need about 240,000 reviews per year just to award the funds that they get from the government to share with the principal investigators. So that's 240,000. So just imagine how much work it would take to actually, if there was only a team of 5 people, just to review those every year. So definitely having reviewers come in to assist in reviewing the proposals is definitely needed. So one of the things that they're focusing on now is, of course, changing the number of people, the diversity of the pool of reviewers that they have, just to make sure that they are of course, being fair and equitable as far as the reviews go. So they want to broaden the participation of the individuals that are actually doing the reviews. And just from the review that I sat on, yes, I was basically the only one that looked like me on that particular panel. So it is important for those from smaller institutions such as HBCUs to serve on these panels. So usually having that group of experts there to review the proposals is really what allows NSF to make the best choice as far as who will receive the funding. So there's always thousands upon thousands of proposals that are submitted. Unfortunately, NSF cannot submit all of them. I'm not quite sure what the funding projections are going to be within the next couple of years. We always look to the current administration to see what they're reporting. So that lets us know how many proposals that NSF is actually going to support. So that's another reason why the review panels are important, because some years a certain panel can grant 8 proposals. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3. So having those individuals in place is extremely important. So the success is ultimately dependent upon the willingness of people like me and of course you being willing to actually go and serve on the panels and to review the proposals. So of course, everyone who is on the panel is qualified in a certain aspect to review the proposals. So that's just in general what a review panel does. The way that it works at NSF, in case you're not familiar with the hierarchy there's a program director who's over a particular program within NSF. Then you have the individual reviewers like me or yourself who will serve on a review panel. So the information, the proposals start with their program director. They may get rid of some at the initial stage. Then the individual reviewers will come in and serve on the review panels, and we'll go through a process as being on a review panel. The decision ultimately goes back to the program director. So the review panel, we really don't make the final decision. The final decision is still up to that program director. The review panel basically gives information to the program director about which proposals they think are the best. So it's ultimately not their final decision of the review panel. So the review panel doesn't say, hey, NSF is going to fund this. That's still up to the program director. And then of course, the program director has to report to the division director. So that's the way that the proposals basically progress through the process. It starts with their program director. It goes then to the individual reviewers who reviews them on their own. The reviewers come together for the review panel. The review panel makes recommendations to the program director, and then the program director submits them to the division director, who then even goes a little further to say, we could fund these, maybe this one who was borderline. So that's the exact process to getting your proposal reviewed. So the reason why they need the 240,000 reviews is because they have so many divisions, so many subdivisions. So the divisions are what you see in black, and then these subdivisions are the ones that you see in blue. So everything you see here in black is one of the NSF divisions. Your subdivisions are in blue. So within each of the subdivisions, you're actually going to find the programs. So for me, I'm in engineering, chemical engineering. So I'm mostly focused here in the chemical, bioengineering, environmental, and transport systems subdivision. But within that subdivision, since I do a lot of particle technology, there's a program called particulate and multi-phase systems, multi-phase processes. And that's the program that I normally submit to. There may be another one if I want to focus in on engineering education. I could look at the programs that are under engineering education. If I want to partner with civil or mechanical, maybe do some advanced manufacturing, there's a program for that under CMMI. So it all depends on the area for which you would like to focus. So if you could just imagine that for each of these divisions, then you break it down to the subdivisions, then you break it down to the programs that are in each subdivision, there are an awfully lot of opportunities to review grants for NSF. So if you're interested, there are plenty, once again, there's plenty of opportunities, plenty of areas. So chemistry, materials, research, there are just so many different options for you to review. So don't be afraid to become a reviewer. So types of proposals. So not only do we have the different subdivisions and programs, there are different types of proposals. The one that immediately comes to mind will have to do with research itself, because that's what we mostly focus on. We focus on our research areas. But there are other types as well. Like recently for last year, they had what was called rapid or eager. Those are the ones that usually come out quickly, so they expect a quick response. So of course, they had a bunch of rapid proposals last year because of COVID-19. So they wanted to get as much research done in a quick amount of time. So a lot of the results from those rapid proposals, I was a part of one with the Florida International University. So a lot of those results are due now because remember, COVID was 1 year ago. Those awards were for 1 year. So a lot of those rapid programs are ending now and the results are coming out now. So that's one type where they have this and they immediately need some reviewers for that. RISE is more interdisciplinary type. So you can write proposals for conferences, for major equipment, which is what the MRI is. For facilities and centers, I'm a part of one of the research centers here on campus called SEAS. There are several of those centers at Prairie View. Fellowships, so graduate fellowships, REU sites, and many more. So you not only have the opportunity to serve on a review panel just for your research area, but for some of these other areas as well. So conferences, once again, for different pieces of equipment, if you're familiar with the equipment, you could serve on a panel for that, for major research equipment. If you're in any of the centers, you could serve on review panels for centers. The graduate fellowship. So if you have graduate students and you're interested in seeing what the NSF funds as far as graduate student fellowships, that would be a good option. Or if you plan to host a REU site here at Prairie View, it may be a good idea to review for the REU sites to see what they're awarding as well. So once again, there's so many opportunities to review for NSF, just based on those areas. So the next question then is, how are these review panels chosen? I think that's probably the biggest question that people have. Exactly how do I become a member of one of the review panels? So the easiest way to do so is just to simply contact the program officer. So I mentioned the divisions, the subdivisions, and then also that there are programs within those subdivisions. So I mentioned the particulate and multi-phase processes program. So for that particular program, I should, as a person who's in the area, I should know who the program officer is. So I should immediately send them an email. Some of them actually prefer phone calls. I don't know if they're in their office now, but they normally respond to those emails and phone calls if you do contact them. So definitely find out whatever area you would like to review for or want more information in. You should definitely contact that program officer. Introduce yourself. If they don't know who you are, make sure that they know who you are by the time you finish your email. So if you have, right now we have social media. I know Ms. Cotton is more than willing to help you develop your social media profiles. So set up your social media profile, get a good LinkedIn account. If you're on ResearchGate or one of the other platforms, make sure that you have all of your information up to date. That's something I plan to do over the next few weeks, is update my information. Since I did get promoted last year, and I don't think everything says that on my social media, so I need to update everything. So introduce yourself, your research experience, your publications, any lab work that you're doing, just any classes, especially the classes that you're teaching. The recent panel that I was on was actually focused on the area that I teach in and not necessarily the area for which I do research. So it's important to have all of your information up to date that you send or either show on social media. Tell them that you actually would like to be a reviewer. They get a lot of emails about the programs and trying to see what they fund in their particular area. So make sure that they know that you would like to actually be a reviewer for their program. Even if they have enough reviewers, more than likely they will tell you, you know, this particular program is looking for reviewers. You should try to do it for this program instead. So communication is definitely key as far as becoming a reviewer. Ask them when the next panel will be held. A lot of panels, I think, like for graduate students, are normally in January. I just once again ended a panel. So I tell people that right now is kind of panel season because they're trying to use their funds before the end of the fiscal year. So right now is when panels are normally held, sometime through May through June normally. The ones that are at the beginning of the year are for programs that normally start in this, or proposals that start in the summer. But right now is a prime time to be on an NSF panel. And usually you'll get that invitation by email. It is a federal entity, so there are steps that have to be taken to be on a panel. Definitely send them a 2-page CV. Please don't send them a 60-page CV, just something short and concise that they can read quickly, just to get an overview of what you have to offer for a panel. So definitely stay in touch if you don't hear back right away. So just like we are kind of busy now, we have an influx of emails. I'm pretty sure they have an influx of emails as well. So even if you don't hear back within a week or two, I will go ahead and send a follow-up email just to make sure that they received it. Also, sometimes the program officers may change and the email address online doesn't quite match up. So once again, if you cannot get in contact with their program officer, even some of the subdivision officers will actually help you get into contact with the exact program officer. So do not be afraid to actually reach out and contact anyone at NSF. I have never met anyone at NSF that was just totally against me talking to them. In fact, they would love to meet with you. So definitely contact someone at NSF if you're interested. So the only thing is that you cannot become a reviewer for a particular program if you have been included on any proposals that are submitted within that group. So like I mentioned an REU site earlier. So I cannot review REU sites, even if it's in a different program than the one that I submitted mine to. I cannot review any of those proposals if I am listed as personnel on that particular type of proposal. So also keep that in mind. You are limited in that regard. So that was how to become a reviewer. It's, to be honest, it's not that hard. And once you're in the system, you are in, they will always invite you to review, possibly in different areas. But once you're in, you're definitely into the system. So what exactly is expected of you as a panelist? So normally you're expected, of course, to review any proposals that are submitted within that program. And it really depends on the category or the program or the type of proposal that you're reviewing. Normal research proposals, maybe they'll have 30 proposals for that category. They have a total of 30 or 35. You'll read anywhere between 5 or 7. So normally you do not read all of the proposals that are submitted to that program. That would be very tedious task indeed. But just reading the 5 or 7 proposals is norm. And they give you a pretty good amount of time. I'll say definitely about 3 weeks or so, 3 to 4 weeks to read the proposals and feedback. The other categories, such as the graduate research assisted fellowships, those have more applicants. So you may have to read 10 to 15 of those, depending on the number of reviewers. So I just want you to keep in mind that you're not reading every single proposal that's submitted to that category. The entire group of panelists is usually split up with a number of proposals that you have to review. So your specific task within the actual review panel is based on the roles that are assigned to you as well. But before I get into the roles, I want to just discuss just overall what's typically expected of you on a review panel. And that's to provide just a general summary, just 2 to 3 sentences of what the proposal is all about. You're going to always go back to the 2 most important things to NSF proposals: intellectual merit and broader impacts. Hopefully everyone here is familiar with those 2 categories. That's a totally different talk. We could probably have a talk on intellectual merit one week and then broader impacts on the next week. But for each of those, your panel review, the review panel is going to look at any strength or weakness that they see for those 2 categories. And then after that, just a summary of what they felt about the proposal overall. And then they're going to do the ratings between excellent and poor. But I really want to emphasize something based on the review panels that I've been on, and that panelists will actively seek out what is wrong with your proposal. So they'll say the strengths, they'll be nice about the strengths, but they're actively seeking out what did you do wrong in this proposal. And sometimes it's not really a bias or because they just don't like you or they don't like your institution. It's because sometimes all the proposals are great. So in order to try to rank them, we have to find something wrong. And once we find something wrong, they're gonna highlight that thing that is wrong, just to make sure that they have a reason to rank you below another proposal. Once again, it's not something that we should look at as malice. It's just that we have to rank these proposals. So if there are 30 proposals, how do we tell them apart? And once again, if they spot that weakness in your proposal, it automatically drops you down. So that is an active job of the review panel, is to find out what is wrong with the proposals in order to make some type of ranking. I know that sounds bad, but it's truly the job. So as you're on the review panel, there are actually several job titles that you will have. And usually the program director is the individual that will assign these roles. So the first role is going to be the lead reviewer. The lead reviewer is normally the person, you're normally assigned as a lead reviewer, maybe 2 or 3 of the proposals reviewed. So you're the one who's going to lead the discussion when it's time to discuss the proposals. So the entire panel sits down and goes through all the proposals. But if you're the lead reviewer, you're going to discuss what the proposal is about. So you'll give a short summary about what the proposal is trying to accomplish, And also you're going to give your personal evaluation of the proposal, whether you think it's a good proposal, excellent, very good. So you're going to defend the ranking that you gave your proposal as the lead reviewer. And then you're going to keep up with the comments, because you're going to have to report those comments later. Well, no, not the lead reviewer, I'm sorry. The lead reviewer is just the person who discusses it, starts the discussion. And then we have the other reviewers. So each proposal has at least 3 reviewers. Normally, if there's a lot of reviewers available, each one will have about 5, but between 3 or 5 reviewers for each proposal is normal. So the second and third, the reviewer number 1 and reviewer number 2 will also give their personal opinions about the proposal based on their ranking, what they saw as strengths and what they saw as weaknesses. So this is doing the panel review when everyone is together and you're discussing the proposals. And then the other person is a scribe. That's actually who I was discussing earlier. The scribe is the person who will take notes as that proposal is being reviewed. And normally the lead reviewer, reviewer 1 and 2, and the scribe are all individuals who read the proposal. So all 4 of those individuals are the ones who read the proposal, spend a couple of hours going through determining those strengths and weaknesses. So they're going to take notes during the discussion, because the scribe is going to be the individual that writes that final panel summary. So each individual will have their individual reviews, and then they'll have the panel summary from everyone that reviewed that particular proposal. So we have the lead reviewer, we have reviewer 1 and 2 who read the proposal, and then we have the scribe. So as you're on the panel, the lead reviewer and the scribe are very important individuals, because they lead the discussion, and then the scribe records what was said during the actual discussion. All the other panelists are still there. There could be maybe 20 panelists, but those 4 individuals are leading it for that one proposal. So the other panelists can listen in, they can ask questions about what was said by the people who reviewed the proposal. They definitely will make comments if they don't understand, and they will participate in a discussion. Now, sometimes what will happen, especially if there are a group of proposals that all have the same final score once we go through all the proposals, then they may actually assign more people to that particular proposal. So some of the other panelists may have a couple of hours to read the proposal and then come back and provide their feedback as well. So it's important to listen in as other proposals are being reviewed as well. So all panelists have to approve the panel summaries, whether you read them or not. So all panelists have to approve them. There's going to be editing that's done, and then the final approval of the summary by the program director. So just in general, and I forgot to mention the slides where I had the NSF logo are slides that I got from NSF. From being on some of the panels, they actually send out information to us. They send out a PowerPoint to us. So I was able to get some of this information from those slides that they gave us as being panelists. So things that you actually do in a review, once again, you're going to submit a summary statement, just 1 or 2 sentences. You're really going to focus in on those strengths and weaknesses, why there are strengths and why you think there are a weakness. And usually that's based on whatever the announcement was for that particular grant. So once again, if it's an REU site, you have to have programs and laboratory space set up. So that's one of the things that you're going to say, this proposal is weak in facilities. They don't have enough lab space to host an REU site. So all of those things are important when you're on a review panel. Once again, they're going to give you a template for your review. So it's not something that you have to come up with off the top of your head. They're going to tell you the specific categories that you have to review. And once again, you have to refer back to things that are within the proposal when you give your rankings. So summary statement and also your narrative. So everything that you say within your particular review should reflect back onto the score that you give the proposals. So just going through the different, and I think, yeah, I'm still doing okay. So just going through the different types of rating categories that they have. So of course, excellent is the best category all the way down to poor. If you get a rating of poor, that means you didn't do a very good job. I'm pretty sure the crew at Prairie View would not like to see any of those. Probably don't want to see the last 3 categories at all. So if your proposal comes back with serious deficiencies, that's definitely a problem. If it comes back with a fair, it's still a problem. That means you kind of address the proposal issues, but not really. Good is the normal. That means, you know, you did a pretty good job, but they're not certain that you can actually do what you're proposing to do. That's really what a good means. It's like it sounds good, the project sounds nice, but we're not sure that you're actually able to do it. Uh, Very good, high quality, not perfect. There are others that are better, but this is a very good proposal. And excellent is usually something, if you give it a ranking of excellent, that means, hey, I really would like to see this proposal funded. There are times when you can have a good and an excellent by the review panel, which is why we have those middle scores. So that's why another reason why being a reviewer is important. There may be some proposals that are excellent, but there may be someone with a small bias on the panel who may rank it as good or fair, which is another reason why it is important for individuals, especially those at Prairie View, to serve on some of these panels. There could be a bias against the HBCU. I mean, hey, we just got what 50 million from Ms. Scott, and I think Mr. Bloomberg is sending something as well. So maybe a panel looks like, hey, you know, didn't that school just get money? Why do they need this money to do the research? So there definitely needs to be individuals there to try to balance out who is serving on these review panels. So just a typical agenda. Usually for your first day on a review panel, you're going to discuss at least half, I would say at least half, if not more of the panel proposals. So serving as that lead reviewer, as a scribe, or as one of the panelists, probably half, maybe half of your proposals will be doing day one, and then you'll listen to some of the other proposals for the other panelists. You're going to rate them, rate the proposals. Usually you don't determine if it's funded or fund if possible, or do not fund. That's the program director's job. But you will see them in the different categories as you go through the progression of reviewing the proposals. Once again, the scribe, whoever is labeled as a scribe, and that's the title that's given by the program director. So the program director decides who reviews which proposals based on your expertise area. They will list the scribe, the reviewers, and the lead reviewer for the day for those proposals. And then day two, you're going to continue discussing all the proposals and hopefully finish up those proposals. So finalize any voting, do any reanalysis. Like I said, if there's a group that you need to split, they may assign more reviewers to those proposals just to make sure you have a certain number in fund if possible, or have a clear ranking. I think on a proposal that I just did, we had it like maybe a top two, and then after that, they all had the same. There was eight proposals that had the same score, so they had to reassign people to those eight so that we could kind of break up that group, and we were definitely able to break up that group. So all panel summaries have to be submitted, and then everyone has to read all the panel summaries, which is very helpful. Having a lot of people read the summaries because there are always grammar errors, missing periods, missing statements, and things of that nature. And usually day three is for finalizing the panel summaries. I've never been on a NSF panel that made it to day three, and I'll explain some of that a little later in the benefits section. So normally day one and day two is all that's needed for an actual panel review. So the question is, what are the benefits? So I went through all of that information about the panel. Now I need to actually discuss what the benefits are. So the very first one is that you get firsthand knowledge of the merit review process. And I put here that understanding the process is key. So back when we're traveling, we were sitting in a room together with our names on. That's why I found this nice picture. We were sitting in a room with your name on a little sheet of paper. It kind of looked like that, to be perfectly honest. For those who are actually able to go through the process of going to I believe it was Richmond, or I forgot where we fly into before we go to DC. But the process to even getting into the room, going through the ID check just to get there is an experience in and of itself. But being in the room, seeing how people review the different proposals, seeing the mindset of different people, everyone's from somewhere different. No one's from the same institution. Most of the time, no one's from the same state. it really is a diverse group of individuals who are sitting on these panels. And not only do we have the panelists, the program director is also there. Maybe any assistants are also there. Sometimes the division director pops up, or some other NSF personnel is also there. So seeing the process to how different people read through the proposals, what they highlight. Normally you're sitting in a room with experts, so that's a good thing as well. So seeing how they determine what the intellectual merit is, seeing how they focus on a broader impacts is very important. So once again, getting that firsthand knowledge of the review process is important, because once again, we still have to submit proposals to NSF as well. So seeing what the review panel thinks is important is definitely an important step. Learning about common problems with proposals. To me, this is the most important thing, is learning what people consider to be problems. So I put what causes a pre-review removal. So what will cause them to get rid of your proposal without review? We actually had one. So most NSF proposals are 15 pages. If you submit a 16-page proposal to NSF, they will not review it. They will automatically send it back without review. So those are the problems that we want to avoid, are just the simple things that will cause them to send the proposals back. Page limits are accurate. Like I said, I was just on a review panel. They had one too many page. We did not review that proposal. So just think about the amount of work that goes into putting a proposal together. For it to not be reviewed because you were one page too much from the limitations is a problem. It's a major problem. Another thing to learn is, what are the areas of focus of the review conversation? So as you're on a panel, what are they really stressing? If your proposal has to do with education, one of the things they're going to stress is, okay, what is your plan for assessing the educational components of your proposal? If you don't have a good assessment plan or a good evaluation plan in a proposal, they're going to focus in on those areas. So those are things that you learn just by being on a review panel, is, okay, what is that one thing or 1 to 3 things that they're really focusing on? So that's something you could definitely benefit from learning by being on a review panel. So what areas are emphasized by the program director? Once again, that program director is usually on that review panel, or there at the review panel. They cannot say which proposals to fund, but they can give feedback by referring you back to the announcement. So once again, the research centers have to have a mentoring plan for postdocs. So if you have postdocs, you have to have a mentoring plan. The program director is probably going to stress that. Or if you have a research center, they're going to say, is there any high risk, high reward, or excuse me, a rapid? So a rapid, or one of the major proposals, look for high risk, high reward type of research. That's probably going to be something that they focus on. And once again, those terminal mistakes made by the proposal writer. If it says 7 pages, you should have 7 pages. If it asks for those specific titles or titles within your publication, if it says have a section titled prior NSF research, you should definitely have a section entitled NSF prior research. Or if it says have a section titled broader impact, you should definitely have a section titled broader impact, because if it's not there, it's one of those terminal mistakes that will automatically disqualify you from receiving funding. Another mistake is not having enough references listed. That's another terminal mistake that you can make. So all of these things I didn't get online. I got from actually being on review panels and listening to the different reviewers and the program directors. So discovering strategies to write strong proposals. I've been on, once again, I've been on several, I don't know how many NSF review panels I've been on, but I've been on different types as well. So normally they look at, especially if you're doing collaborative work, they always focus in on the composition of PIs and co-PIs that you have. So they're going to look at your qualifications. Once again, those profiles, the social media profiles, they will Google you. So make sure your social media profile is appropriate. Make sure it's showing your strengths. Make sure that if you Google yourself, that you're seeing good things and not bad things, or angry blog rants from students. So try to clean up your social media profiles. So how important are those supplemental materials? Once again, that your facilities, they definitely read the facilities and resources. Your data management plan, especially if you have sensitive information, they really read those documents. They're not just there. They will comb through those documents to find, once again, sometimes they have to find a weakness to push you down to very good instead of excellent. So even the supplemental materials are going to be important. What key information is included in a strong proposal? I think one thing that I really learned from this past panel that I was on was, even if you do have a weakness, like say, I don't have as many publications as probably everyone else in my department. I already know that. They will see that when they review the proposals. I need to address that somewhere in a statement within a proposal. So if right now for engineering, we're expecting to have a new building. So on my facilities, I could say, hey, engineering is about to get a brand new building. So we may not have all the facilities now, but by year 3 of this proposal, we're going to have this new facility with this particular, with these pieces of equipment available for usage, and it will increase the space that we have for our facilities and resources by X amount. So being able to address your weaknesses within your proposals is also key. And what really distinguishes a very good proposal from an excellent proposal, to me, the very goods are the ones that are fun if possible. So just getting a good will not get you funding. Very good will put you on a list to possibly get funding. Excellent means that more than likely you're going to get the funding. And then once again, I think I mentioned this earlier, what does the panel consider as average content? So average content, if you get a good, but with a few very goods, they think that you're just average. So you really have to do something to make your proposal stand out. So once again, you get all this information just by being on a review panel. It's not something that's published, it's just something that you have to experience while on those review panels. So one of the other biggest benefits is you're able to meet people. I cannot stress that enough. You're able to meet people in your area, especially if you're focused in on your research area. So you will hear from those experts, the people that you may not have known even existed. You will be able to meet them. And definitely I've had, for my last panel, I think I have 3 LinkedIn requests. I check it once a week. I'm bad about it. But I have 3 requests from the previous panel that I was on to add them as a, I don't know if it's called friend or colleague or something on LinkedIn. So you will make contacts, you will build your network just by being on a panel. I kind of hate that it wasn't in person, because usually you're all in a hotel together or something like that. But even in the Zoom platform, we were able to have a few side conversations. So those side conversations, meeting people, new people from different universities who have an interest in the research that you're doing, of course, you're going to have plenty to talk about. You get to meet the program director or the program officers who are managing those areas of research that you want to focus on. So those handshakes, meeting people, brainstorming, getting ideas, who knows, maybe you'll start a pipeline, maybe to send graduate students or back and forth, or maybe you visit their campus to give a talk. So different things can happen just from being on this panel. So I've discussed 4 important ones. I think the last one is what most people like to hear about. And that's, yes, you do get reimbursed for being on this NSF panel. So previously, I was mentioning my experience. I think I flew into Virginia and then took a taxi to a hotel or something. They actually have a list of hotels for NSF. I'm not sure they're still doing the in-person ones, or if they will ever go back to in-person. I hope they do, because to me, once again, it was beneficial going through the process of getting your ID tags, then in that long line early in the morning. I think those who have been understand what I'm referring to. When it was in person, you received $480 for each meeting day. Once again, 2 days is normally the max there, although they plan for 3, to be honest, it's 2 days. And then $280 for each travel day. And normally that's just 1 day. They'll refund you for 1 day, unless for some reason you guys meet on the 3rd day. I don't see them giving funding for more than 1 day for travel. And of course, we don't live in a local area, so that 280 for each meeting day doesn't apply. But since we're in a virtual setting now, they are giving $200 for each meeting day. So for 2 days for a panel, that they will definitely reimburse you. So you put all the information in. They have a platform on Fastlane. So the panel functions and everything are through Fastlane. It's not through research.gov. Everything is still on the Fastlane platform. They'll send you login information and you'll have to put information in there. So I had these at the end, the next slides at the end, but I wanted to go through them just to point out a few things. You do have to sign and turn in a conflict of interest form. And that's just to make sure that you can actually review the proposals. So if you have any conflict of interest, you have to disclose them to NSF, whether it's based on the institution, if we had collaborations, or if you went to an institution and they gave you an honorarium that is still a conflict of interest. Normally you just don't participate in a discussion, but I could talk about that later as well. And the last one is confidentiality. So you're not allowed to share any of the proposals with anyone. Once you finish the panel, you're actually told to destroy any copies of any other proposals, whether, since it's all electronic this year, you just put it in your trash folder and then make sure you permanently delete it. You're not supposed to share that material. When it was in person, we will all have these big notebooks full of proposals, and we will just hand them over to NSF, and they had this gigantic shredder that they will place all of the information in. So I just wanted to go over conflict of interest and confidentiality quickly as far as review panels are concerned. And that is the end of my presentation. As you can see, my curtain, I guess it should have closed, but it opened there. So that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
If there are no questions from the audience at large, I have a couple of questions that were sent to me privately. So the first question, I think you sort of addressed it, but the question is, are NSF review panels in person or virtual? You kind of touched on that. If you want to go back over that for the person.
Yeah, so right now the panels were in Zoom, which I think was actually a pretty good platform because we could take breaks and, and things like that. We could work through. Normally, if we're in person, we will have several breaks. We will break for lunch. Actually, no, we actually worked during lunch. They would bring lunch to us. So NSF will prefer, like I said, to end in 2 days and not 3. So they, of course, they wouldn't have to reimburse you for the extra day, and they really want to get the process complete. So they'll rather keep you there longer than to add an extra day. So right now it's virtual. So all the paperwork, everything is within their platform. It's actually perfect. I'm not sure if NSF is going to go back to in person. Maybe for certain areas they will, but for right now, everything is in Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Next question, are we allowed to list specific NSF panel participation in CVs or resumes? That's a great question.
So NSF says no. And I've seen it on several CVs where they list, I was on NSF panel XYZ in year 2019. You are not supposed to disclose that information. The only information that you could place in your CV or resume as far as serving on an NSF panel is to say like I served on the panel this year. So in my CV, I'm going to write NSF panel 2021. I cannot give any other information about which panel it was, what day it was, or anything like that. That's the only information that you can give. Once again, it goes back to that confidentiality statement. You are not supposed to release that information. So I cannot send information about any panel. In fact, when they send you the notice that you're on the panel, at the very bottom in red, it tells you that you cannot tell anyone that you're on that panel. So NSF really frowns upon individuals who put that information into their CVs or resumes.
Thank you. Great question. And here's another one. Can I serve on a panel if I have conflicts?
Actually, you still can serve on a panel because remember, there are about 30 to 35, maybe even 50 proposals. So what they're going to ask you to do, and I kind of showed it on one of these slides, I believe. if I could go back. So I think, yeah, so you're just not going, at the bottom it says don't participate in any discussion. So in the Zoom platform, it was easy because the program director could just take you out of the room and put you into a breakout room. So they were able to remove you. So any discussion about that particular proposal, you're not privy to. So anytime if it was brought up for more discussion, you will be removed from the room. In person, they physically removed you from the room. There was a little holding area with snacks that you would go to while that particular proposal was discussed. Usually proposals may take about 30 minutes. Some take an hour to discuss them, depending on how heated the debate is. It really is a debate sometimes. Like I said, sometimes the proposals are written as excellent, while one person will give it, I think we had poor for one of the ones that I had. So there was an intense amount of debate going on. But if you have a conflict of interest, they will just remove you from the room and put you into a holding room, or since we're in Zoom, just a simple breakout room.
And the last question that I have here is, how can I find the contact information for the program director?
So that's actually very easy. Like I said, they are very willing to give you information. So if you go to nsf.gov and then go through the different directories to your program, all the email addresses and phone numbers are listed. Once again, I've never had any problems with contacting program directors. Even as I was writing proposals, I've never had any trouble contacting program directors. Even if I submitted like an abstract or a page or two, a white paper or something about my research, and it wasn't their area, they would always direct me to where I should go.